You're all there.
No, surely after,
No, that's but no one's listening. What's it? No one's listening.
What good would it do?
Thank you.
I'm listening to it, he showed this morning. He mentioned it. I listen.
Good evening and welcome to the May 27th Board of Commissioners Work Session and Budget Workshop. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Move to approve is presented. Second that.
Thank you, Kathleen. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And item number 3 on the agenda is a public hearing to receive public comments on adoption of an ordinance imposing a 60-day development moratorium on data centers as a land use.
Move to open the public hearing.
Second.
Kathleen, thank you, Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Sarah, we don't have anyone signed up. Shannon, is there anything you would like to say regarding the
No,
setup for this? I know we're gonna maybe talk about this.
yeah, no, I was just gonna let you know that we posted the public hearing ad in the paper per the state statute and there's no one here to speak this evening and we'll be talking about this more in the next section of the agenda.
Great, thank you.
Close public hearing.
Second.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Kathleen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. On to number 4, items for decision consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Kathleen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And on to section 5, in-depth discussion and topics. First up, as we just alluded to, an ordinance imposing a temporary moratorium on development approvals for data centers, cryptocurrency mining operations, and any use associated with data center processing facilities within the town of Hillsborough.
And so as we discussed at our last meeting, the UDO does not currently recognize or realize this as a use. And we, as staff, need time to kind of study it, learn more about it. We've been learning a lot about it here in the last few months, but we need some more time to develop some ordinance language surrounding this and go ahead and adapt to this new emerging use.
Thank you, Shannon. And I'll just say that I agree with the assessment that was presented to us. That our UDO does not address this as a land use and the impacts of data centers, or the impacts of data centers. So I think it would be great to take time and resources to evaluate these deficiencies. I'll go around the table. Megan, do you have any?
No, I agree with that statement that because it's not in the UDO, we haven't had to deal with this yet. I think this moratorium is a great idea for Hillsborough to do, to learn more about them and make sure we're thoughtful in where to place them and what language to use around them. So and I would place a motion to pass this moratorium.
Second.
Okay, thank you. More discussion. Rob, do you have any?
No, I don't have anything to add. I agree with the, with moratorium and giving us more time to figure out where we're gonna go.
Thank you.
I would say ditto. I think data centers are going to become more and more integral to the economy. They're not going to go away. And inevitably someone will come and look for one. It won't be one of the large gigawatt facilities, but it could be fairly substantial and impactful. And, you know, one of the things I think of recently this week is Duke possibly having a data center, which they don't have to go through any approvals, and they actually have, apparently there are a lot of loopholes for Duke to go through with the moratorium because they have the physical infrastructure already in place. But you know, one of the comments was coming back to, but there's also a drought and questions about heavy water use and what are they planning to do and that sort of thing. So I also want to see it from that perspective of what's technically possible out there.
Thank you, Matt. Kathleen?
I maybe give her
I agree that we need to take a look at it. Not having it in the UDO opens us up to unintended consequences. And we do need to have that discussion. We do need to look at some of the hard questions. And look in the context of Hillsborough. I got back from Rural Hall where the county placed a data center. They're placing it right across the street from housing that the community did not have a choice in. And they are not prepared. The community's not prepared, and already the housing values are being impacted. So we need to really take a look at that and understand. Because I agree with Matt, they're not going to be the large ones, they'll be something that's smaller, and what will be that impact? And more than just today, but looking down the road.
Thank you, Kathleen. There's a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good. Thank you. Moving on to item B, secure and seek partnership with North Carolina Department of Information Technology. Chris, welcome.
Hi. Feel like I'm here a lot lately. Hi. So the North Carolina Department of Information Technology is the state organization that manages IT for state agencies. They have a relationship with local municipalities, but only just barely. And they are working to improve that through integrations and tools that they're offering for the enticing price of free. It's my favorite four-letter F word, and I think that this is a great tool, Tanium, in terms of different, oh, sorry, I'm not speaking in the mic. This is a great tool, Tanium, that they are offering. They are not offering a full tool. So this is a couple of modules that they would have under an umbrella. So we would be in the Tanium environment under NCDIT. It has been raised that this would put us into close contact with our data with a state-run organization, so the North Carolina Department of Information Technology. I had the opportunity to attend NICL-GISO, which is a North Carolina IT, don't ask me what this, IT consortium that basically comes together, brings together all the IT professionals here in the state, and was able to talk to Ms. Bernice herself, the cybersecurity director for North Carolina Department of Information Technology, and talk to her about the secure NC MOUs that you see in front of you in your packet here today. And I expressed some of our concerns that we had in regards to potential data sharing and things of that nature. She has sent through one of her people an updated MOU that speaks a little bit more about how the data that we are putting in here is more for reporting. It is so that the North Carolina Department of Information Technology can say, hey, we've provided this tool to local municipalities. It has made them more safe and more secure. It also changes the language a little bit in regards to speaking on not training any models based on our data. So Tanium wouldn't use that data in order to train their models. This is updated language. Unfortunately, I was not able to get into the packet, but wanted to bring to your attention as part of this discussion to address some of the concerns that I heard in originally conversing about this. NC Secure is, like I said, a program that NCDIT is doing, and they really want to get more municipalities on board because the more safe and secure we are, the more safe and secure the whole state is. And we're all in a team sport here when it comes to protecting data and assets. Also, candidly, it helps NCDIT because then they get a better idea of what kind of threats are out there and what kind of things that we're doing to remediate. So team sport, but it's something that we wanted to run by the board and make sure was appropriate and works towards the best interests of our organization. And I will field any questions you might have as best I can.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Kathleen?
I know the league has got programs on cybersecurity. I know, of course, NCDIT, but what I don't understand is how do they overlap? Do they complement?
Sure.
I don't have a good feel for where the pieces fall.
That would make two of us. So the league might have a suite of tools that I'm not 100% aware of, but I'd be happy to take a look at and see where the overlaps are. But this was brought to my attention as part of, like I said, that conference and through conversations that we had with our VCISO. So we have a Chief Information Security Officer who brought this program to my attention. He thinks it's a wonderful tool, like I said, and the price point is, again, very attractive. So
I would definitely be interested in understanding how the two complement, overlap, have nothing to do with, I have no, just.
sure. Any tools that we could potentially get that are paid for, similar to how I know you look for grants and other opportunities, I think this kind of overlays with that. And this is an opportunity for us to get a very high class solution here at town for a very low price. So.
I mean, I do know League is supposed to have price breaks for us, but I don't know what that actually.
Is it
looks like.
100%?
Again, I don't know what that actually
Sure.
looks like, and I don't know if it's irrelevant for our thing.
Yeah, but I'd be happy to, like I said, bird dog
Yeah.
that down and figure out if there's any additional opportunities there.
Thank you.
Sure.
Chris, I have a couple of follow-up questions from our earlier conversation. That is, I don't know, the easiest way to maybe like on a scale of 1 to 10, what capabilities, without naming vendors and techniques, what do we have now? And what's your feeling about Tanium as a solution?
Sure. So right now we work through our managed service provider who provides a suite of tools that they recommend. And that is managed and maintained and brought to the town based on their recommendations. And I believe that this is in complement to those tools. So not to name any names or anything along those lines, but through the Tanium deployment process, we would bring in Tanium, NCDIT, and our managed service provider to make sure that the tools that we have are complementing each other. This is another insight into how we could manage and maintain our fleet of laptops, devices, and so on and so forth. Make sure that they're patched, up to date, not spewing vulnerabilities out into the ether, not letting agenic AIs come in and take over everything, like Commissioner Ferguson was telling me earlier. So, but that's the takeaway there. So we do have tools in place, but they are managed by a third party. This would be managed by the town of Hillsborough's IT department division.
And supplement what we already have. We're not talking about replacing.
There may be a world in which something is doing such a great job that we would be able to turn off other facets and tools if we felt that it wouldn't leave us exposed. But yes, that would be a benefit I would see. The downside of that is this is a state-funded program and funding dries up. And so we don't want to be in a position where we either can't walk away or don't want to walk away because we don't have tools to fill the gap. And so this is our opportunity to take this tool and use it while it is available to us.
Any sense for if we try this, we like it, the state withdraws funding and it's up to us to pay as we go?
Yeah, so that is always an opportunity for things like this. So, yeah, we always can go to Tanium and say, yes, we'd like to become a customer. At that point, though, we are no longer under the state umbrella purchasing, in a larger scale. So we would have to make a decision as to whether or not the tools we have in place that we might want to replace would be worth one-to-one there. That we won't know until we're further down at the program.
And one or two more quick questions.
Sure.
I forgot where this is in the memo webpage, but you refer to a sanitized visibility into our environment. Could you translate that into common English for the rest of us?
Oh, man, I thought that was. Okay, so what that means is we will be essentially living under the umbrella of NCDIT. So NCDIT owns the Tanium deployment. And so we are essentially in a child account below it, and that child account gives them certain visibility into what we do. It does not give them full visibility into every single aspect. They cannot make changes unless we request them to, and other facets of that nature. But they can see that we have certain vulnerabilities or a quantity of vulnerabilities. Again, this comes back to the reporting that they're looking to get in terms of, the town of Hillsborough had a reported score of a C- when they started, and now they're at an A+, or whatever the case may be. They're really looking at it in terms of, we took this tool and we turned it from, here we were there, and then we moved over to a better position.
And the information that we store and maintain on behalf of the town, is that being copied into state DIT?
Yeah, so the reports are being maintained in terms of they create these sanitized reports. Again, they're based on vulnerabilities, quantity, and so on and so forth. In terms of the data storage, so there's no data storage or training that's being done based on our data or anything along those lines as has been reported today. So.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Perfect.
Informative. Hey, Any questions?
No, I don't have any questions, like the price.
It's my
And
favorite.
if, if it's gonna provide, us more, security kind of down the road, I think it's definitely something to look at, so. Charge on.
I was looking through the agreement and the attachment, the license that was attached to it. And it expires on July 30th.
Yes,
2026.
That was gonna be my question.
But I noticed that there have been 3 or 4 extensions, 1-year extensions.
Mhm.
Do you hear, are you anticipating that will be extended again?
Yes, so again, this comes to, I did have an opportunity to ask that question. Section 8 term, this is from the NCDIT, they've updated, or they're going to provide updated MOU language. The program's enrollment period will begin in November 2025 and continue through the license true-up date, September 15, 2026. Any entity that completes a memorandum of understanding by July 31st, 2026 will remain eligible for ongoing support with the Tanium platform provided by NCDIT as remote. As I understand it, that is one of those things where the MOU needs to be updated, and it's just a matter of changing the language, but they are planning on it. They've heard that from a number of.
Because I was just thinking,
Absolutely.
Somebody we're gonna sign up.
Just 5 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good, fair catch. Yeah.
Any other
Um,
questions?
sorry.
Oh, that was gonna be my only question, because it doesn't define the program term in the main part of the agreement, and then all the dates in the appendix, are all dates in the past except for the upcoming July date.
Right.
But they're aware of it, they need to update it.
Yeah, so when we
They
submit
should
the,
also update the look of the memo,
Ah, yeah.
memorandum or agreement, because it also looks like something from 1998, but.
you know, like the state of North Carolina flag and MS Paint. Yeah, so we'll have the updated date along with the updated information and language with the not training based on our data and all the other things that we discussed as per this discussion. I will state that NCDIT has other tools available in regards to safety and security. This is part of their Secure NC initiative. It's not just one suite of tools. Right now, we're focusing on this one, but I think there's a world in which we would come back to you and say that there's a similar program doing X, Y, or Z. Again, at the price point that they are floating in front of us, it's hard to say no, but I hear absolutely what you're saying, where if funding dries up, does that leave us in a lurch where we're holding the bag essentially? I think that's something to consider, so.
Yeah, Eric.
Related to Commissioner Ferguson's questions about the league, so I'm at the league's website and they partner with VC3, which probably a lot of people have heard. So VC3 is a for-profit company, and like the league has with different services, like they have HR services, different consulting services, and they either say this is a preferred vendor or we partner with them. So, but whatever VC3 offers an array of IT and cybersecurity service, but you have to pay for that. So I'm sure that whatever we're getting for free, we could pay them if we preferred.
And Kathleen, that's who did the dark web presentation we went to.
Yeah, I remember it was VC3 that did that one. At one point, they were offering some sweet deals. But I don't know if that's even the case anymore.
And I think part of the reason why Secure NC and NCDIT is doing this is because they want to show benefits to local municipalities, because they want to have funding again for programs like this. So I think it's a matter of us participating, finding out if we like it, going forward with it, and then dealing with whatever ramifications of that are. So,
Thank you. One other quick question,
Sure.
that is the, you remember references tiers.
Here's,
What are the tiers according to NCDIT, tier 1 and tier 2?
excuse me, if I reference back to, do you have? Hey, do you have that up real quick?
No, I don't. Working.
Just a moment, I'll know in a
Thank you.
second.
Responsibility program, participant, permission to share, confidentiality. Yeah, if you could give me a page on that one.
searching for it and I'm not finding it.
I know, me
Yeah,
too.
I don't see it.
But I remember references to tier 1 and tier 2.
Generally, that's referencing things like support and, you know, how quickly they'll respond to outages or issues or something along those lines. They were very adamant. And I'll keep talking until you find your reference, but they were very adamant in regards to the support is coming from Tanium directly. It is not just NCDIT. Oops, so sorry. What's that? It is not just NCDIT, but it's also Tanium itself. They're working in tandem. If you find the tier language, I'm happy
I'll
to.
send it to you. Yeah.
Perfect.
Not a critical question at all. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second,
That's to authorize the town manager to sign the, is that what the motion is?
Yes. Yes, and I guess that assumes that this with Bob,
Updated
review
MOU.
of the amended.
Yes, of course.
Okay, any more discussion? Who's the first and second?
I did.
and I second.
Kathleen and Matt, thank you. All in favor?
Uh,
Any opposed? Thank you, Chris. And on to item C, fiscal year 2027 budget workshop number 2.
Oh. So tonight is a continuation of the first budget workshop. There were several items that were identified for further discussion, so this is to follow up on those. So first off, we had, there were several fees that were identified, that were requested that staff look into this to see whether they were appropriate or whether or not changes needed to be made. Staff was able to look at those and did email out this afternoon. Hopefully you had a chance to look at it. Staff recommendations, but of course, you are free to adjust them however you see, but just wanted to provide that information. So starting off, we have the planning fees. Wanted to see if you were okay with the new proposed rates or if there was a different fee that you would like to see.
This is on page 1 of the PDF that you sent, like to send.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I was looking, I looked for the basics.
So hearing okay with the proposed 27 changes. Okay. For the police fees, there were two fees for them.
I actually think fire lane, because I think,
State maximum is $50.
okay, never mind.
And the AG's office put out an advisory on it, so it's $50.
Okay.
Cause I looked that up too.
I'm going, there's a little bit of whack priority there.
Was it a lot of towns that do 250 or just?
I saw Hendersonville was the only one in North Carolina that's at 250 and it was the highest. I thought ours was a meaningful jump, but not a huge jump, I guess.
Did you happen to see, like, out of the ones that you looked, was there an average?
They said that anywhere from, I think 150 to 250 was the average across, but 250 being the high.
The high.
Any consensus on the proposed fees? Public space. I think there was a question at the last meeting about when the last time we updated those fees and Josh went digging through budget documents and it was just last year, FY 25, we did an increase.
So FY 25, we increased the non-resident fee for the large picnic shelter, but we didn't make any change to the resident fee, correct?
Correct, and I think that was to make that differential,
Easier to calculate.
yes. Make it twice as much.
I still would increase it.
Yeah, I think they're still too low, so
I do too.
$20 an hour for a 3-hour 3 hour block, so it's less than $7 an hour to rent. Beautiful picnic shelter that gets rented pretty much every Saturday and Sunday when during warm weather. I think it's below market rate, below what other people in adjacent municipalities are charging. I would like to see that go up.
I want to, just because there's such high demand, it actually doesn't give a lot of room for flexibility. 'Cause it isn't, I'd like, for different reasons, I'd like to see it increased.
And no Stephanie's not here, but Matt, you might be able to answer this too. So if and when we build a shelter at Kate's Creek, would we rent that out also?
Yes.
Sorry.
Well, I was just wondering, proposed increase, like, you're thinking,
There is no- Oh,
what, I mean, do you have a number for everybody?
I don't think it needs to be crazy. I'd like to see it go up like 25 at least for a resident.
I did, yeah,
And I'd be curious to know how many out of town residents actually, rent that. I don't think it's a big number. I think most of them are residents, but I don't think it just is.
Yeah, I was thinking $10 an hour, which I think is. I mean, I think
Still-
that's still,
yeah,
I still think that's really low for out of towns. I would bump it up to 60, 70.
so for out of town.
Yep. To give more incentive for local residents to rent it out. And for the fields, I don't like having it the same rate. When you think about square footage, the flexibility of utilization of that space, I think that 20 and 40 is again way too low. Instead of $10 an hour, I would go 30, I'm sorry, well, actually, yeah, 20 to 30 an hour for the fields.
That's what it's at.
$20, I'm sorry, you're right, I'm sorry, still bump it up 30.
So if you're doing $20 for 3 hours, it's not $20 per hour for 3 hours,
Oh,
that's $20.
$0.60.
So if you
Fields
rent
are per hour.
if you rent it at $20 per hour for 3 hours, you're paying 60 versus 20. So it is scaled.
Instead of 60, it's still, okay, it's still too low. But
Do you have
if,
a
but,
recommendation?
I'd still bump it to 25 per hour, 25, 30 an hour, and for out of town. 50 or 60 per hour. I would like to have a lot more incentive for in-town residents. I'd be willing to compromise a lot more in-town residents to encourage in-town usage.
And perhaps to recover the true cost of maintaining that
Exactly,
infrastructure for people who live in.
exactly.
I'm not, but I could go to 30 for in town and fields per hour.
25, yeah, probably 25.
I'd be more comfortable at 25 than 30, just since per hour, just multiply so quickly.
It's $15 more. For like 3 hours. $20 if it's a 4 hour, and which I think is. And I think about what our costs are. And really I do want to see us use it, but we do need to maintain it.
So 25 for the fields per hour and what for the out of town?
50, 60,
Big one.
60. I don't think I'm comfortable at 60.
No,
It's not a hill I'm gonna die for.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't want to get it too out of sync because, I think it would be tempting to think of out of town residents as just maybe someone living up in Cedar Grove or whatnot, but you know, there are a lot of people who are served by our utility system who see themselves as living in Hillsborough, and we, you know, so some of those folks could be those folks who live on our water system or they're in our ETJ, and I wouldn't want to raise it up too high for them because the perception already is that we use them as a piggy bank with the utility system. I don't think that is a fair assessment. Because of the cost that it takes to serve out of town customers, but I'm thinking of those folks about the fees, and I think having a differential makes sense, but I wouldn't want to go several times higher. I think double is okay, but beyond that, I'm not too comfortable with it.
I mean, the ETJ and sewer. I don't think is I think it's a false equivalency. You know, this is not that, and they are residents. There are county facilities, this is town. County isn't maintaining this. There are costs that keep increasing.
So.
But you know, again, it's in terms of. Not married to 60, but I'm pretty strong on 50.
25 and 15.
That, that you could, Stephanie's not here, is the rentals for the fields usually like your 5K or a school event or something? It's not usually like the Saturday morning soccer team or soccer players, right? Those people are just using the field, they're not renting it.
It's usually for like organized events,
Okay.
and they're not rented very.
Yeah, most people on our field are for several reasons. One is, we don't maintain them for like league or competition sort of play. We don't water them. And so for a competition sort of style thing, they're not necessarily, that's what they're lining up to really. So it's mostly pick up, play and bring. There is a group, regular Sunday group that plays Elton Rover, Kate's Beach Park every Sunday morning in the 12. I don't know if they're in here or not. But I don't think there's a lot of people that were in the shelter is rented very regularly.
It's actually hard to get a shelter off of it.
I agree. I think to Matt Hughes' point, there are a lot of people. The people I consider non-residents of rent, a shelter, even the field, I think really the people just on the fringe of the town of Hillsborough. I don't think people are coming up from Chevrolet or Carver or coming over from Mebane to utilize those facilities. It's mostly our people that are probably in a water service sort of area. And so I'm fine with 50, but I would, let's say 25 and 50.
25.
25, 15.
Thank you.
Did we settle the picnic?
I don't think we should.
Settle the picnic too.
I'm sorry, what's?
We didn't settle on the picnic one, the picnic
There
shelter,
was consensus.
or did you get?
I didn't get it.
Okay, yeah,
Is it 20?
25 is one thing for in town. I mean,
I
that's my,
25, 50 as well?
I thought,
yeah,
I said 30 because it's $10 an hour. Or like if we did 3 hours. I think that's reasonable. And out of town, I still would like to see 60 with 20 an hour.
20 an hour.
You've got, I'm thinking in terms of.
So 25 and 60 in the shelter.
30 and 60.
30 and 60, is everybody okay with that?
30 and 60.
30 and 60, I'd be okay with that.
And there were several street fees. See nodding of heads. We're okay with the proposed changes. Next up, we have,
Just for, we heard about more about developer fees today. To workshop. And they're definitely lower than a lot of folks. I just wanted to note that we are a lot lower than what we were hearing.
or I guess for clarification, are you wanting staff to look at some of those fees? Okay.
No, I'm just making an observation and sharing what we were hearing.
Next up, we have the nonprofit partnership program. I think there was desire to sort of revisit that in particular as it related to funding of the various arts agencies, sort of pending the TDA's budget adoption last week. Commissioner Derrick, I will turn it over to you.
Yes, the TDA. Sorry, I'm looking for it now to confirm, but Shannon, hopefully you can confirm, because I can't find my notes, but we did end up doing $10,000 for uproar in the TDA.
Yes,
Budget.
and the tourism board meets and has their public hearing for their budget on Monday night. So if this board would like for some part of that funding to be requested to be funded by them, I just need to know what and in what amount, so that we're not both trying to kind of fund the same things.
And from the TDA meeting, just correct me if I'm wrong, it was $20,000, like out of all three boards that the uproar was looking for, correct?
Yes, and so the uproar funding, I believe, is going to be met. So that need, I believe, is met, and the tourism board already does funding for Handmade Parade last Friday, so their ask could potentially be increased. We just need to know by how much.
Thank you.
So does that request need to be stated tonight?
It would be helpful. I was not able to, I didn't stay for the discussion for the last meeting, but there was some discussion about support for funding in the amount of 15,000, I believe, for the Arts Council. But they had, I believe, 3 or 4 different asks, and none of them add up to 15,000. So if we could potentially revisit their asks and get a little bit of clarity on what this board would be comfortable funding versus what this board would like for tourism to consider funding, I think that would be really helpful.
And from my perspective, you know, what we talked about at the last meeting was a decrease in the request of $2,800 and then asking the tourism board to pick that up. If it's in their mission, so is that still what is on the table, or is it a completely different set of math?
Well,
That was my understanding. but-
yes. And I'm still, I was gonna ask for clarity about the Arts Alliance one, and like, does this 10,000 need to be part? Or if we think the tourism board would think that, but back to the Arts Council, I think the discussion that we had was that what we would like to do is pull apart what exactly we're funding that. And it has come up before on the tourism board previously, when it was known that we were giving money to the Arts Council through the nonprofit partnership program, whatever we were calling it at that time. You know, some members of the board at that time felt like there was a little bit of double dipping because the proposals were covering the same events. And I know that the Arts Council does things that aren't all tourism related. But the original conception of the meals tax did not make that distinction when the alliance was formed and this sort of thing. But I think that there was some conversation around the table. I'm no Mayor Bell specifically called out. Yes, like poet laureate. That is great. That is something we would fund, but just making. Just not asking for the same things that are asked for of the tourism board. Because. We want to make sure that we're funding in a very strategic, thoughtful, targeted way. That's at least my takeaway and something I support.
Well, I would agree, I mean, especially given the more value that we're looking at, I still maintain. We need to focus on the most vulnerable and basic needs first. Water, that like the OCIM, the water bills, the electricity, the Fairview, again, providing services or supporting services for our most vulnerable before we ever reach higher needs. And to Matt's point, the enabling legislation was created with a specific purpose in mind. We had talked the last time about the poet laureate being something Hillsborough took on. I still would have had that being an arts council, but understand if we committed to it. Okay, but I would like to see that. To be tourism development, so that this nonprofit could focus on. Those things again, and I look at Exchange Club Park again, what they do is so much is helping feed. Our most, the most vulnerable, they're providing recreation that folks that just they don't have the funding for league play or things like that, so. The direction I'd like to see go to is that we focus on the least, the vulnerable and the least of us before we focus on higher needs and, especially where there is revenue streams that were created specifically with them in mind.
I think the only other thing I would add to the conversation is the recognition that collectively the tourist board and TDA are sitting on over $1 million in reserve funds above and beyond their current budgets. Their fund balance is over 100% of what they're doing. So it makes sense to ask them to contribute more to the things so that the town isn't using property tax revenue in the general fund to pay for those things if there's another very large balance that can fund those things.
A little bit of both what Kathleen and Mark, what you mentioned already, but when we're in a year where we're deficit spending, I agree that I'd rather see the Orange County Mission when they're paying for people's water. I want to make sure that we're focusing on that type of thing where we're really helping the people that might lose water. Now I have learned that the Hillsborough Arts Council was very thoughtful in how they presented these numbers to us. They definitely took them to look at what residents are they serving, and I understand that the tourism boards were looking to bring in folks to Hillsborough to check it out, learn more about Hillsborough and spend their money here. But at the same time, we are deficit spending this year, and we have healthy fund balances in both the tourism boards. And so that's where I kind of go back and forth, that this year is a difficult year to add, I think. So I think that's why I feel more comfortable just reducing that a little bit, in that regard. So, yeah, I think I'm okay with the 15,000, but and then asking the other boards or the tourism board to look at filling that gap for the Arts Council.
Maybe, Rob.
So I would just like to see us fully fund Hillsborough Arts Council's request, whether that's 15,000 from the town and 2,800 from somewhere else. I would like to see us fund $70,800 for That's Arts Council. And I think we take it for granted sometimes, the level of programming that they provide for free. And then, you know, the benefits from our local business and stuff from not only our residents that are spending money in town, but also the visitors and other people that don't live here. So I don't, it doesn't matter how we get there. I would just like to see Hillsborough Arts Council get 17,800. Going back to, you know, OCIM, I think if OCIM needed or wanted more money from us, they would ask us for more money. But they haven't. And so, you know, I think, you know, obviously we can, you know, encourage them to ask for more if they need more in the future. But I would think if they truly needed more, they would ask us for more. But they've maintained that, that same figure for several years. So if this is kind of more clarifying question, if we're talking about the Orange County Arts Alliance and the $10,000 ask. And so you said TDA committed $10,000 for up for FY 27.
Yeah.
Would that take away this $10,000 that they're asking the town for?
That's what I'm kind of wondering,
what
if they,
I'm-
yeah, if they need 20 total, that's,
I believe
I guess the question in front of us, either tourism picks up the 10, or there's some portion of it here.
I would prefer the tourism, pick it up,
Mhm.
and put that back in the general fund.
I guess that's all the questions and comments I have.
So where are we with Shannon?
So I have a
Emily.
clarifying question. I'm not trying to be difficult, but, the town was asked. So it sounds like what I'm hearing is that the town board supports the arts. We're an arts community. But we are looking at, a budget deficit with the town board. So the town board would like to, you know, lead on the tourism program to try and fund some of these tourism related activities. It sounds like the town board would like to fund the Hillsborough Poet Laureate program in the amount of $7,000. And fund Last Fridays in the amount of $7,000, and would like the tourism board to pick up potentially up to $1,800 for Solstice Lantern Walk and $2,000 for Handmade Parade. However, you all have pledged another $1,000 to try and meet somewhere in the middle. Does that sound correct?
I didn't realize that we were getting into granular
Yeah,
program
yeah.
specific. We were just looking at the total number, so.
Yeah, for this ask from the Arts Council, probably not, but when I am putting together the tourism board's budget, I'm gonna need dollar amounts and what it's for that request.
Who's had breakdown? Yeah. I was just trying to find it, because
The, it looks like last Friday's request was $7,000. Solstice Lantern Walk was $1,800. Poet Laureate was $7,000 and Handmade Parade was $2,000 for a total of $17,800. Want to make sure I get it right when I ask the tourism board and we don't end up with some kind of a shortfall somewhere because the math isn't mathing.
I feel like this is where I'm struggling because you're trying to marry a grant and a contract for service. Right? Like, to me, this is essentially a grant program. I don't feel like it's the same as our tourism board with the contract partners and whatnot. So the things you just named out, and then you said another $1,000 or something. So did those things not total 15,000, and then to total it would need to be an additional 1,000? I'm confused.
So there were 4 asks, and essentially this nonprofit partnership program is kind of like a grant. I believe there was an application made and there were specific dollar amounts for specific programs that were requested. So those dollar amounts that I just read out are what was requested from the town of Hillsborough's town board. They didn't ask for just a blanket grant in the amount of 17,800.
Right.
Just for general support. They asked for, they had asked for specific programs and events. That's where I'm getting a little hung up on
Now- now
what
I
I'm
see why you're
supposed to be
hung up
asking
on
tourism
because-
board for.
What would the 28,800?
Yeah, there was,
Yeah.
there wasn't an ask.
You're trying to
Any
figure
amount
out when you do
2,800.
the contract, partner contract,
What
where
amount?
to assign those dollars
Yes.
to.
Yes.
Now I'm on the same.
So I'm saying, I'm not trying to split hairs or be difficult, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm asking the tourism board for the correct.
Yeah. And I guess-
Support and for the correct programming.
For this grant, for the grant from this board. I know that they've broken down each of those, but in my mind. We were still just funding the Hillsborough Arts Council, not. Each of these buckets were gonna be restricted to, they have to use it here, they have to use it there. Like, we knew what they planned to use it for, but I don't think it was coming restricted from us, this board.
Okay, that's
Uh,
good to know, if that's not the.
I don't know, that's my interpretation.
So your suggestion is to
I
approve go forward with 15,000 to let Shannon
Work
work
with the Arts Council to
come up with the other
form like, yeah.
2,800.
Yeah.
I actually understood differently. I thought
Uh-huh.
that because it was grants, they were telling us what they were using the money for.
Yeah. But we weren't restricting that to each bucket.
No, we were not restricting, that's true. We
Yeah.
were not doing that, or any of that.
No, it was just, here you go, you make it work.
Yeah.
Or I think you would work with the Arts Council, or, you know. Would be fine, and you're working with the tourism board as well. You know, some $2,800 differential, like their most expensive contract partner service, which is probably. Solstice Walk. Or Last Fridays. For the purposes of generating that contract.
The TDA is doing the biggest contribution for Solstice Walk, But yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. So essentially, this board is willing to say, we'll do up to 15,000. And then we'll just kind of figure out how to make that up, probably in Handmade Parade, because that ask was 2,000. And maybe the 1,800 for Solstice Lantern would make no sense. But I can work that out with AJC. I just wanted to be clear, because I didn't want to accidentally kind of fund the same thing. And I think for next year, it sounds like maybe this is a blanket funding for, because I'm still trying to kind of understand the nonprofit partnership funding from the town. Because I get asked, well, who should I apply to? Should I apply for tourism board, TDA, the town, outside grants with Orange County? Like, and I'm like, I don't know. So it sounds like blanket, and then we want to prioritize maybe need-based funding opportunities.
I think you got it.
So when we do the contracts with them, it is not blanket. I think, and Josh can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it does state that they have to essentially use the money in the way in which it was defined in their application.
Okay, so it is restricted.
And if we didn't do that, we would probably risk running afoul of the public purpose limitation. And so I'm glad, I thought I was going crazy for you.
Thank you for, I mean, that's.
Yeah.
Was my interpretation.
Right. Because, yeah, otherwise we would just be going, here, do whatever you want, so I don't think that's what the board wants. So.
In fact, maybe I'm stating the obvious, but for the next year's budget, then it might make sense to kind of not split things across different funding sources, town, tourism board, TDA, but to a single. There might be opportunities to make it more straightforward, how much from which partner. That's just.
But do we have clarity then on what's getting funded? I don't know if the question got answered.
I think so, and I think yes.
From those two, but I think Robbie still had made the point about OCIM. Meaning 11,000 versus their 10,000 now.
My point was if they wanted more money, that would have asked for it.
I don't
If I
think,
can just say something that is, we fund them for the water, it's only for water students because it's not a regular request from them. They're just probably only asking what they think that we're gonna get.
Well, then that's my point. Is,
But it's-
if they,
but they're doing it to fulfill our customer base we know more the need than, in some ways than they do. I mean, certainly they get asked for more than what they get granted for. But we have better insight on the need. And for want of an application didn't get filled, people go, we're not being paid for their water. That doesn't sit right.
How about this? I think we need a suggestion. Since we just zeroed out the Arts Alliance. And I know you've mentioned general fund. But if we just move the 10,000 to OCIM, knowing that we know the needs there,
I'm
put it
so
at
for that.
21,000, there's still $1,000 less than. No, maybe we're not $1,000 less, we'll come out at the exact same
Yeah.
amount that's up there now.
I am so for that.
You understand?
I'm not opposed to that. I
But
feel like they
with the
should-
direction that, please really help us assess. A good number if 10,000 is not
And
sufficient.
that's a fair ask for them, is help us understand the need you are seeing to give us a picture. You know, from where you said.
You got that?
I think so. So I've heard is, everything stays as is, except that we're zeroing out, the Arts Alliance and applying it to a CIM.
So that's at 21 or 20.
21.
Yes. Okay.
The other.
Next up, just sort of want to touch base, to see if there's any additional information that you need, from staff. With regards to the budget. I know we've been hearing from you, getting emails and questions and stuff, but didn't know if there's anything else that you don't.
Can I say, you've been very responsive to various questions, so appreciate the flexibility and the quick turnaround time. on these questions.
Yeah, no problem. It's definitely been a team effort.
Hopefully you don't have nightmares of numbers chasing you around town.
No, not yet.
Canada.
And also wanted to ask if there's any other, I guess, discussion that the board needs to have, I guess, before we move into budget adoption, just tentatively scheduled for the June 8th meeting.
And I will not be here. Or I support the budget.
If I'm asked to vote, I'll reiterate.
Because I can't vote from, virtually other.
So I guess my question is, are we moving forward with the assumption that there's a 2% increase?
That's what we currently have in the budget, yes.
I'm not down with that.
Any more comments about the 2%, 2 cents?
Other than I think this is a case where we have, our decisions are crappy, crappier, crappiest. But I think it's necessary. Because we know the shock is coming in 3 years, and we also know what's the levy limit that the General Assembly is gonna be what's passing. And we could be stuck in a very bad place.
I think, I want to add, and thank you, Emily, and reiterate what Mark had said is, for the responses, but one of the questions that I had for you was about possible FEMA, possible reimbursements, and, you've responded that possibly only $200,000 could come back to our bottom line or to our general fund if everything was, reimbursed. And I was hoping you didn't say the 1.3 million, but that's sewer and water. But those were the questions that I was like, okay, is the 2 cent the right direction? Can we maybe get by with 1%? Like if you were saying, oh yeah, I think we might get a lot more than that. That was where I was kind of waffling between. But knowing that, thinking about personnel costs. What could come down the road in a little bit, and possibly increases there. That also the third thing that makes me lean towards the 2 cent is we're looking at a cliff in pretty much in fiscal year 29 with a lot of debt service coming online. And it just, I would hate to do that to the residents of Hillsborough, right? Just dropping a huge tax increase on them. If, no matter what happens at the General Assembly, one way or the other. But to drop that, I feel is worse than stepping it up. And I hope that if we add the 2 cent in this fiscal year, that sales tax all of a sudden like jumps up in this year. We look much better when we are here next year, but at this time, I feel like 2 cent might be the best buffer that we could do, in my opinion.
So you're saying maybe there might not need to be bigger increases in future years if
If we start
sales tax, if something
Yeah,
happens
something-
positive.
exactly, if we can, we have 2 revenue streams in all intents and purposes, so have to go out 5 things.
Any other comments on that?
I think that looking at the revenue picture each year will be very helpful. Of course, I think we're looking at a projection in FY 29, but the revenue projections are stagnant because we haven't seen the sales tax increase, collections increase, and they flatlined. And we have to assume that to conservatively budget, that the taxable property that we have today at the current market rates are what we will have and only what we'll have in FY 29. I would assume.
We do build in about 2% for your growth, so some growth, but
So some growth, but Shannon can't tell you when these units will be on the market. Feed you all that information to be able to figure out what property will be taxed in FY 29. Like, we don't have a time machine to figure that out. So I think it is a really good thing to project out to 0.5. I don't think we'll get to 2.5. I think we'll have a significant deficit. But I think we'll have to see each budget year this is the year that we do no increase or an increase. Is it 1 cent? Is it 1.5? Is it 2? But we also have to plan for, well, what if our projections are coming true? And could we help the affordability issue by not potentially having to raise 6 cents in one fiscal year, but we have phased in that over the course of several budget years? I think it's just more prudent to do that because it will allow us to start paying back into the fund balance eventually. I mean, I know you have to do your budget gimmicks because of profits. Can't have surpluses. We have to have that flat line at the end of the year. But I think that will be good because that means effectively we are putting funds back into that fund balance. And then maybe we can use some fund balance in FY 29 as well to cover some of that deficit so that we're not looking at a super huge increase. So I'm looking at it almost 3-dimensionally but there's just so many question marks on that chessboard that I think it's just more prudent to do the 2 cent now and just evaluate each year how much we should titrate that to get it right.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head. It is gonna be a year by year analysis of where we stand and what the projections now look like based on the previous year. I also, it goes back to my concern of we are seeing major weather events every year. Sometimes more than one, and I do think this is probably the best way to I won't call it prepare because nothing prepares us. There's just not enough funding for us to be truly prepared. But it is, I think it's the most prudent thing we can do to better prepare.
Thank you, Kathleen. Any other comments?
So with a 2 cent increase in FY 27, are those funds just going to the general fund or what's our plan for that?
So right now, they're just going into the general fund pot, they're not earmarked for anything specific.
So, and I think it's important that we communicate whatever that is, you know, to our residents of, and the reason why. And, you know, I think you make very good points of why, so we don't have a large cliff to fall off in 3 years from now, but I think that's very important how we communicate that, to our residents. You know, I just feel for, you know, our most vulnerable residents, our renters, our older adults, with the 7.5% on water and sewer, 375, you know, proposed coming from the county. I just feel that, there's a lot of people that are struggling right now to have any kind of increases, is hard. Also our, excuse me, our small businesses and, because I think any kind of little increase in kind of affects there, because it's a very, very thin line that they are operating on also. But those are just my concerns.
And I,
All good comments and kind of building on what you said, Rod, and I saw a town manager making notes on this, maybe on this specific point, but as, if the board proceeds with the budget as we're discussing it, then having that explained in the communication and also perhaps illustrations, because I think there are gonna be some people who are thinking of the tax increase that came as part of the revaluation. Right, that was, you know, a ginormous tax increase, and from the 3 people that I've heard from so far in the past week about this proposed 2 cent increase in the Hillsborough share of the property tax. One came out to $12 more per month, and one came out to a little over $15 per month, and the other was maybe $14.25. So understanding what that means practically for the average property value in Hillsborough, I think would be a good thing for people to understand it and not jump to a conclusion that it's similar to what happened during the revaluation.
And I agree, Rob. It hits our hardest, our most vulnerable. And that's why I go back to, we have crappy, crappier and crappiest. It ain't good no matter what.
yeah, the county's not.
Yeah, I was also gonna say, you know, at our Visitors Bureau meeting, Sally, Commissioner Green was talking about their budget and the tax increase that they're considering. And I guess what really struck me, because that was a few days after our last meeting, is how much, according to her, how much that tax increase is debt service. And I think because we can see it in our budget a lot clearer than perhaps the county. But I also perceive that they didn't have to think about it and kick the can down the road. We can see it in our document, and trying to absorb the shocks organizationally and community-wide, I think is more prudent than what the county is doing. I don't envy their position, but a lot of that was debt service. Some of that increase is inflationary, but I feel like she said something like 84% of it is debt service. And I don't want us to be in that position.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Oh,
Sure.
I just like, looking forward to next year. This is very general. So everybody knows, I just spent 40 hours in a vehicle driving around the country, not exaggerating. Got a lot of time to think about the situation. I know we've been talking about the revenue, but just to reemphasize some comments that were made earlier by myself and staff. As far as like going into next year's budget process, which will just be coming up in a few months, and we're updating the strategic plan, and the staff was talking today. As far as like just trying, just so you know, on the expense side and for the community, you know, we've gone 2 years with basically, you know, you've seen how flat we've held adding staff, and the plan has basically one FTE that's partially paid for in 3 years. So we're basically gonna have a 5-year period with almost no staff increases. That's not easy. And the comment has been made, staff is getting more and more stressed because every week there's new, hey, can we do this? Can we do this? Somebody's upset about this. And it is just burning our staff out. So one of the thoughts on the 40 hours for the driving around was trying to think and incorporate into our budget process next year, as we've done many times with departments and divisions, is putting a lot of focus internally on like, I'm not an IT person, but we were using the term blocker or barriers or things that are making difficult for our employees to do the jobs, and more difficult and more stressful, and making them want to go other places to work. It's like, the mayor uses the term aerodynamic. I'm not sure if that's a lean term or not, but trying to focus, things and asking them, what can we stop? What can we do to free you up to do your job? You know, it's like there's 3 things that are our main core operations in local government: that's serve the community, that's maintain things, and replace things. And and one of the things we talked about in the strategic plan, I think we lose sight of, is we forget about those 3 things. I think this board and this town does a better job of taking care of what you've got than most places, but I think that's a threat, because we spend more time in these meetings talking about none of those things. And so I think the challenge going forward is, this is an exaggeration, but if things get more difficult economically, it won't be. It's like, instead of thinking about more, it's thinking about hold the line, so we can focus on the most important things, which is core services. And what are the few things to do is, and as I'll say this and stop talking, is we do the strategic plan and we start asking for feedback. The normal thing for the community, me and the board, is like, let's do more. So my thought for next year is, let's try to do less. Jen mentioned today, the art of subtraction is an overlooked and underutilized thing. And so I don't know how we coalesce all that into a simple, clean process going forward, because I don't know. It's overwhelming for all of us. But that was my very long-winded way of saying, we will be spending lots of time trying to figure out how to not add more people. Can we delay capital projects, the Band-Aids and bridges? Are there less expensive options that we can come up with to save money on some of these major things? So we have not lost sight, and that's where staff's focus is going to be, on that more narrow area.
Good observations. Thank you.
I like the phrase, addition through subtraction. And, I think I support that. I think when we come through that discussion, that really, I also think the community has to have a better way of communicating what they want to see and what they want to have. And I think those are also 2 different things. I just remember, on the bulletin board in my civics classroom in high school over at Cedar Ridge, there was a quote that my civics teacher had, which is, we can afford everything that we need, but not everything that we want. I think that's an oversimplification, especially from the 1940s, but I think it's true that if we really focus on the must-haves, we can do those very well, but the would like to haves might just take longer, and that's okay.
I mean, I think too, I always get a little bit nervous about delaying capital and delaying important things. You know, this community, there's a lot that it wants. We do not have a lot of philanthropy, but you look around, not only the state, but the country. And where you see, you know, a lot of the amenities. We fund it through government, and every place else, they fund it through philanthropic in the community. We don't have that, but we're at the point we need the community to step it up. Because of our situation. I will say again, y'all laugh at me about naming rights. I am dead serious.
I told Theo you were gonna say naming rights tonight.
Yep.
I just had a sentence.
Of course I am. By segment, you know, whatever. From small towns to larger communities, again, in this state and elsewhere, you will have, you know, individuals, and it's not that many people, frankly, but individuals that they have a love of the community and they give back. So you know, whether it's, you know, Lillington, or whether it is Kernersville, or whether it's just across the state. And so my call out is to the community, and not everyone has the means, because we have a lot of vulnerable folks. But let's be realistic, we have folks who do have the means and who love this community. We need that kind of help for supporting, put your money where your mouth is, the philanthropy.
Thank you, Kathleen.
I was just gonna say, because it's kind of the curse of having a very responsive local government, that folks do expect a lot out of you. And because of local responsive government, the county, all municipalities, there hasn't been a community discussion that we need to have a foundation.
Exactly.
Or something that helps with quality of life that they do in several communities.
Well, absolutely, and the public-private partnerships. And we have not had that, we haven't had those structured conversations, we haven't had the structured players. Normally, the genesis is from the community. It is rare that it would come from government. You know, and while any one of us can say that if it is not supported by the community, it will not happen.
Thank you. Good conversation. Important. Emily, do you have what you need from us? I think that was the end, or is that the last slide?
That is it, yes, that is the end. Yes, I think I have everything, thank
Okay,
you.
awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, and just, I guess, a quick timeline reminder, June 8th is currently scheduled for budget adoption. That's good.
Okay, on to number 6, committee updates and reports. Now, yeah.
Earlier this morning, I attended the Home Builders Association Housing Summit with Commissioner Darab and Commissioner Ferguson. Always very informative. I think I've been to all of them, and it is interesting to hear from that side of the equation when it comes to housing. Commissioner Darab and I had such a good conversation with a local builder. So good that we stopped doing the module demonstration and discussion. I don't know what they talked about, but we were having such a good exchange, because what I was hearing was, especially for local builders, of wanting to be involved in the process of, you know, whether it's UDO rewrites or helping with affordable housing, but having some direction, and also understanding that a lot of the proffers that come out, like, they have to figure out how to make that work. And that he was talking about in a different community, something that's going to make it very difficult to meet the affordable housing component with all the proffers that had previously been suggested. And so I think, again, it comes down to targeting of maybe what sort of things are proffered to help with affordable housing and whatnot. So it was very interesting, and I hope he gets in touch with the two of us to continue the conversation. Orange Care Coalition had a good meeting earlier this month. We heard from a refugee services organization, which I did not recall the name immediately and didn't have time to go through my email. But it was really good to hear how these sorts of agencies are operating in this current environment because of their population, immigration, enforcement, some folks who are here legally, who live in our community, are afraid of getting snatched up, when they have the legal ability to live here, through their refugee status. And really the great work that they're doing. So I'll find the name of the organization and get it to y'all. Visitors Bureau was last Wednesday. It was heavy on our budget. We're making several budget reductions next fiscal year. Over the course of this fiscal year that we're in and the next one, the Visitors Bureau would have lost close to $700,000 from both county. The county's holding steady this year, but also Chapel Hill. So Chapel Hill reduced us $300,000 last year, and this year they're going to, or the next coming fiscal year, they're going to just zero us out completely. So the Visitors Bureau is going to have to scale down, and Shannon was there, and it was kind of a brutal conversation, because David Putnam, who works with Chapel Hill, I think took a lot of criticism, just about from everyone around the table. But I think he did admirably and answered admirably. But I do think it brought up some conversations after the fact about, what kind of targets is the Visitors Bureau trying to meet? Are we focused on the right things? And there's going to be a longer term conversation about that, even prior to the budget that was planned for. We had TPO. Yesterday it was closed session, attended Memorial Day event with Mayor Bell. Also attended the Veterans for Peace Memorial Day event that we received an invitation for. Later that day, last week, went to the Polly Murray Awards over at the Whitted Building. And I have a question for Eric and Mayor Bell, but are we having adequate representation at the fire department meetings with Evelyn being out? I was thinking about that.
There's not an alternate to Commissioner Lloyd. So I was emailing with Chief Cade today. We talk on a regular basis, so he hasn't raised any concerns or major issues lately. So he's usually very proactive in letting me know if anything's coming up.
Okay, that's good to know. And I was wondering, this is kind of a question, but I was wondering if there is a set way in which we have to do public hearings, particularly around the budget, because I know we have to have a public hearing, but I just think of our last meeting where we had the public hearing. Folks mostly cleared the room, but then when we got to the meat and potatoes of the things that we'd like to change from the staff presentation, it would have been nice to be able to get feedback on that conversation rather than just what the staff and the manager's recommended budget said. Because we did make some pretty substantial changes in that document, or not formally, because we operate more informally, but is there a way to flip the order, or do we have to do it the way we have been doing it?
Perhaps you're suggesting continue the public hearing during our conversation?
Yeah.
Interesting question. Sure. Bob?
Oh, well, I'll give you an answer and then Bob can correct it. So you've got options. So like I like to say, what's your, it's more important to know what the interest is. I think you could continue the public hearing. That is an option. But your legal requirement is to do it at that point, but there's nothing to stop the board at any meeting from allowing public comment. And a matter of fact, I'd say over the years, even though we've had public hearing, it's members of the public have come out like on adoption night or on a second workshop night, and and they can express it in other ways. But if the board feels you're encouraging and we get more public comment by continuing it, so you have options to do whatever you think would be most effective.
Eric was right. There really are no rules established for the budget hearing. I mean, some jurisdictions have the hearing and then immediately go into deliberation and have a discussion. But if some, like you, have the hearing and then later in the agenda for the business, you have your discussion. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's up to you.
Then, you know, even though we've got the public hearing, but unlike other things, we can take public comment, whether it's inside or outside the public hearing though, yes?
Absolutely.
Okay, so.
An
I mean,
adoption, I think.
I guess. I mean, I struggle in general. How do you encourage the community to participate for, you know, feedback? It seems to be some of the most fundamentally impactful decisions we make. There's no one, and then some of the issues that, they're more, they get
Well,
more
I mean,
more
Case
emotional.
in point, we had a public hearing that no one came to today.
Yes,
Flood is very much a hot topic,
exactly.
and I was surprised.
I was too. I was expecting people, because I've been approached by, every one of us have been approached by a lot of people. I don't know how to, you know, I don't know how to make that happen, but I guess the fundamental issue is whether we continue it or not. It sounds like, I'm not sure that would make a difference. It's one of those. I think for optics, keeping it open is good. I don't think it will have the impact that we want of actually
Well, I just think of,
getting people to participate. And I would love to find a way, for, to inspire, to encourage, to draw folks out. You know, part of it's two ways. One is it for their input, but it's also an education for the public to understand the decision-making we're doing and why the things are budgeted, that they're budgeted, and the prioritization and just the whole structure.
I'll make a quick comment, then I'll ask Bob, then we should probably move on. This would be a good topic for another time. And that is, the mechanics of running a public hearing. We can't have us deliberating and having 20 people comment, you know, it would be a
Oh, absolutely,
disaster from a
Absolutely.
communication perspective.
absolutely.
But to your point, that very well taken, that
Yeah.
how do we get more people to listen to the whole conversation for the time
Yeah.
and feedback?
and I think maybe if we can do the deliberations and then have the public comment on the same night, I think that's fine, just switching the order of the agenda a little bit. Only because I had some feedback where it was like, wow, I left after the public hearing and then like y'all discussed some pretty weighty stuff that I probably would have then signed up to public comment on. And I thought that was a point well taken, so.
We did meet for 4 hours, so I mean, that's the challenge. And then last year, we met for 3 hours before we even got to the operations. So that's the hard part. If you're gonna say we're gonna, who wants to suffer through, you know, a lot of those discussions. So if you wanted to do it, the concept of public hearing and continue the public hearing or close that public hearing and have a second one, or just have, you know, public comments on budget adoption night to encourage people. Those are, again, whatever the board wants to do, you
Yeah,
can
I
do.
think just making it accessible and that folks know that's not the only time we will hear from them as we're doing, I mean, we're appropriating, we're legislating, and just making it, maybe it is just putting it on the agenda so that the public knows that's not the only time to weigh in. It's not like a rezoning where like, after that, it's done. And I would just like to say, it's my 8th budget cycle, so 8 years on the board as of last month, and I've loved every minute of it.
Bob, did you have a comment?
An observation, I think. I've been here 25 years and gone through and participated in and sat in at budget hearings. And I think in 25 years, the most people we've ever had come to speak at a budget hearing was 3. So we're kind of making a mountain out of a molehill in some ways, if you ask me. If people don't show up, there's not going to be any discussion but yours.
Was looking ahead at the adoption night, I'm wondering how many people actually from that night, because
that should be public comment than a regular meeting. But I don't know, last year we didn't have anybody, but it is another opportunity. I just don't know how many people take it up on.
I mean, this will be my 13th on the board, and I had 4 or 5 before I got on the board attending. And I was the sole person in the back of the room.
I remember.
Okay, can we move on?
No, I sat in the corner.
Matt, we finished? Was that your last? Okay, Kaplan?
Oh, hang on. All right, so partnership, was on board night, so, and then Triangle J was tonight, so I attended like 45 minutes of it. We adopted the budget, I'm sorry, we didn't adopt it, we were presented no, we did adopt it in the consent agenda of the budget. But also one of the things, and Eric, I know that you were reached out to as a manager, but we were presenting the Pathway to Government findings survey of one of the things that Central Pines is doing is really looking at, you know, pathways for government service. And we talk a lot about public safety, but where there's very limited pathways highlighted across the region, electric line workers and inspectors, services, bless you, utilities, wastewater technicians, maintenance and land management. So looking at, you know, with the drivers being skill gaps, compensation, competition, limited applicable credential barriers. So I was unfortunately not able to hear the rest of that conversation, but I really like that, the COG is taking a look at that. The other thing that they were discussing was the public incivility survey that was done this year. There was going back to 23 and then here, the rise of staff stress level of receiving negativity from the public just really frightens me, and it's another reason why, you know, for us, the civility, it's an even more reason to take that. So I think Brock, you weren't able
I still
to,
needed, yeah, I still needed it.
please do.
Is that through, Central Pines or through, school?
It's done the league, it's through the league, and so the webinar is free. And when you do that, we can then do the rest of the pieces, which is there's adopt a resolution, sign the pledge. I think one other thing, and then we get recognized, but I think it's important as a public stand. Excuse me. But it's having an impact on recruitment and retention and what they were seeing. There was and I missed the stats, but the number of local government people who are asking to be reassigned from frontline service to back office. And then, you know, from different managers worried about the safety for staff, the burnout. So it's an area I'm glad the COG is looking into from a different angle than the leagues, but I find it very complimentary. The other piece was in part of the presenting of the budget, it's pro forma when NPR or TPO presents the budget. I did ask, but Doug, though, on their strategic plan and transportation to collaborate with the COG, because it makes no sense to have 2 regional plans with transportation on one hand. Then you have housing, water use, sustainability, you know, on another hand. They have to work together, and for them to be done independently from that, it makes no sense. So I asked that Doug, and the TPO collaborate and coordinate so that we have a regional plan that looks like the right hand and the left hand have met. And that's one of the reasons why you have NPO and COGS together, is in theory for the cross pollination and collaboration, and it just makes no sense.
Transportation's gotta be.
It has to
part of
be.
all of it.
So anyhow, I know you two are on there, but I have asked publicly. Right hand, left hand, introduce yourselves to one another and actually shake. It serves our region better.
Thank you, Kathleen. Is that it?
That's it, right down. Oh, other than I mentioned that June 8th, I will be at the National Association of Regional Councils board meeting.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, one other thing I mentioned. There's a 4-hour AI workshop that Robert Hyatt is doing, and Chris mentioned about the agenic. It's intended for executives in AI and policymaking. But one of the things that we're addressing is that if you have credentials, off-the-shelf agent AI tools will bypass every security thing we have. So one of the things we're gonna be learning is how to deal with that, what to look for, to be aware of, what can we do?
Who is we?
This is the National Association, so Robert Hyatt is doing a 4-hour workshop,
I'm sorry, what national association?
Association of Regional Council.
Gotcha.
So it is, councils and NPOs, well, they're one and the same. It's housed within the NARC. Their offices they share offices with NLC, National League of Cities, and National Association of County Officials.
SWAG did not meet. Commissioner Hughes mentioned the executive director evaluation. We did the TPO in closed session. Attended the Memorial Day event on Monday at the Chapel Hill Veterans Memorial, Orange County Veterans Memorial in Chapel Hill. And the speaker was Secretary Jocelyn Mitnell Mallett, former U.S. Army intelligence officer, and then a JAG officer, and then she's the Secretary of Military and Veterans Affairs. So that was very nice to hear her speak. And immediately after that, I met with the mayors of Chapel Hill, Carrboro, and Chair Hamilton of Orange County Board of Commissioners. We try and get together quarterly, as you probably know, and it took us like months to figure out a date and time to meet. But we did get to catch up on a lot of things, talked about data centers, we talked about budgets and tax increases and all those kinds of things. So it was good conversation. And that is all I have to.
Already discussed that I had the Tourism Development Authority meeting last week, and we talked budget. And approved that for this board then to approve the budget there. UNRVA met last week, we had updates on the rules, again. And then, attended, as, Commissioner Hughes mentioned, Ferguson, that we attended the, Home Builders Association Summit this morning. And then yesterday I was able to attend the Cedar Ridge Pole Barn ribbon cutting, so.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, they're gonna get some animals, which so like, yeah, I think it'd be pretty fun. They're gonna, hopefully, their hope is that more students decide to take some more classes and. Or even to be able to offer those classes. They have them over at Orange, but they're gonna be able to offer them now at Cedar Ridge, so.
I can tell you that at Cedar Ridge, we were very, very jealous of Ag Day at Orange High.
Yeah, it came up. It came up of, is Cedar gonna have an ag thing? So.
That was more years than I care to admit ago.
Yeah, hopefully so. But it was a very nice pole barn, nice and clean for now, until the animals move in. Yeah. I will say, I was in the orange one a couple months ago, that was very clean too, the students were in there cleaning up, so. There were no animals in that,
Not in the stables.
exactly, so that's all the updates that I have.
Thank you, baby. Rob.
I just had, 2 meetings, we had the Orange County Deployment Council on the 15th. There was a presentation from, Mary Tiger from Owasso basically did, a presentation kind of regarding where we are in drought in Orange County. And it was specific to Owasso, so it was specific to their water their water levels, which are very similar to ours, but what came out of that was, is we're in a pretty good position with our water reserves, and we really don't have anything to worry about in the immediate future. They obviously they monitor their levels similar to how we do ours. And as of a couple weeks ago, there's still plenty of water in reserve. Kathy Vinsky came and kind of talked about that people all over the county are so impressed with the Hillsborough Climate Challenge. And what Kathy Vinsky and her team has been able to do with all volunteers, shoestring budget. And so it was an opportunity to basically to share that story and journey with other kind of like-minded people. There's definitely interest in Chapel Hill and Carrboro and in doing something similar. So it's kind of an inspiring sort of way to be able to show off Hillsborough a little bit and the commitment that our residents have to climate. So that was a pretty presentation, and talked about all the wonderful things they did in the month of April here. Orange County Climate Action Plan is out now. If you're not familiar with it, it's on the website, Orange County's website, and it's basically, talks about all the summer-related things and extreme heat days that we'll have in the future, how to keep employees safe, how to keep public and residents safe, cooling centers and where they are and when they'll be opening. Strong push for if you are not on or getting OC alerts to sign up for them, because that's where a lot of that information will come out if there is a heat related emergency or any kind of emergency, obviously. And then they touched on, we kind of ran out of time, but touched on a little bit about the Electrify campaign. And so it's a campaign of like switch when it quits. We wanted to start that last year, and we just kind of didn't have enough gas in the tank, and so they're bringing it back this year. But it's a whole idea of like, if you have a gas stove, if you have a gas dryer, that whenever that quits on you, to think about switching to electricity instead of natural gas. And then obviously with power tools and yard tools and that sort of thing too, so there's good options out there now for electric sort of appliances, and then also tools. I think that was it for climate. Parks and Recreation Board did meet on 17th of May, had a wonderful presentation from a local Girl Scout troop. They had they want to paint joy at Gold Park, and it's I think it's their silver project. And they had a proposal to paint 4 different, utilizing the paths at Gold Park near the playground where most kind of kids kind of congregate, is to paint with what is it? Basically outdoor concrete or cement paint. 4 different little things that kids would interact with. So it's an interactive sort of mural. So for example, one would be hopscotch. And then they had a bubble thing with different colors and numbers. There were 2 other ones, but it was pretty impressive little presentation from two young ladies. The Parks and Recreation Board is going to make a recommendation to the town board to allow that project to move forward. And it was designed around, they have one thing that's designed around kind of welcoming and having a space that everybody's welcome. So they presented an example of having hello in a variety of different languages that we would see display. And so and they kind of picked some general things. They're very thoughtful. They looked at the demographics of Hillsborough and then kind of came up with some cultures where they felt were represented here and proposed translating below English languages, but. Those was a great presentation. I think that's it. So.
Thank you, Rob. If there's nothing else for the good of the board, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Matt. All in favor? Anything? Thank you. Have a good night.
Sarah? Can I order another name tag with this seal, por favor?
Yeah, I'll need to check the budget.